In this video, we're going to talk about mathematical properties. So this is something that you're probably going to have to remember, so let's talk about it. The commutative property. Commutative just means we're going to commute, or we're going to switch places. Think about if you were going to commute to work or commute to school. It means you were at home, you went to work, you came back home. You switched places. That's what commuting means. So if I have 3 plus 4, that is equal to 4 plus 3. Is that true? 3 plus 4 is 7, 4 plus 3 is 7. This is a true statement. So when you add numbers, you can switch their places and it works. That's what commutative means. It also works with multiplication. If I did 3 times 4, that equals 4 times 3. They both equal 12. That's great. So the commutative property works for addition and it works for multiplication. It does not work for subtraction. So if I were to go 4 minus 3, is that equal to 3 minus 4? Well, this would be a positive number, this would be a negative number, so no, it does not work. And it's the same thing with division. If I have 4 divided by 2, does that equal 2 divided by 4? And the answer is no, that does not equal. So commutative property works for addition, multiplication, but not subtraction, and it does not work for division either. Now, let's talk about the associative property. The associative property has to do with how we group numbers. So when you see this, if you're trying to find out the difference, remember in here, the order flip-flops. In associative, the order usually does not flip-flop. So I'm just going to give you a 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 1 plus 2 plus 3. The difference is we'll group 1 and 2 separately and do that first. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. And in here, we'll group these two numbers together and do that one first. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 equals 6. So the associative, we're not going to change the order. We're just going to change how we group them. It's also going to work for multiplication. If I did 1 times 2 times 3 equals 1 times 2 times 3, and I would just group them a little bit differently. Here I would get 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 1 is 6. So associative works with both addition and with multiplication. Just like commutative, it does not work with subtraction, and it does not work with division. So the commutative property of addition, yay. Commutative property of multiplication, yay. Commutative property of subtraction, no. Commutative property of division, no. Associative property of addition, yay. Associative property of multiplication, yay. Associative property of subtraction or division, no. Now, how are you going to remember the difference? Remember, commute, switch back places. I remember one time, I'll be careful saying this, I was doing ordered pairs, which we'll do later, and I had that, I had a little comma in there, and somebody made a joke that it kind of looked like a butt cheek. And I go, seriously guys? Really? But then I thought, well, wait a minute, the associative property has parentheses. The commutative property doesn't have parentheses. So the one with the parentheses would be the associative property. So I don't know if you see anything there that helps you, but if it is, go ahead and use it. Now, to get the other identities, I need to wipe the board. Whoosh. And there we go. So let's talk about the distributive property. Now, the distributive property also uses parentheses. It's the only other property that will use them, but it uses them a little different. So if I had a 3 out here, and I had here a 2 plus 1, what you want to do is you want to make sure that 3 multiplies by both of these numbers. So in your example, you'll see something like 3 times 2, I times them, and then I have to times the other, plus 3 times 1. That's the distributive property. You're normally going to see it in math with something like a 4x minus 2, and you're going to distribute that 4 to both things that are in the parentheses, and 4 times x is 4x, minus 4 times 2 is 8. That would be the distributive property, okay? Another one to see is the identity property. This is pretty easy because think about what identity is. It's yourself. It's who you are. Nothing can change you. That's how you have to think about identity. So if I'm going to take, say, the number 5, And I'm going to do the identity problem of addition. What can I add to 5 that won't change 5? The answer is plus 0. If I take any number and I add 0, it's going to be an identity. That is the identity property of addition. Can you do it with subtraction? Yeah, you actually can. Okay, so you also have the identity property of subtraction. What about multiplication? I'm going to take that 5. How can I make 5 stay 5? Well, the identity property for multiplication is times 1. Anything times 1 is itself, and that's going to be the same with division. You're just going to divide by 1, and then you get the same thing. So when you work with things that are called identity problems, this would be an example of identity. And then last one, you're going to see a multiplication by 0. So we just call that the identity of multiplying by 0. Anything times 0 equals 0. 5 times 0, 0. A billion times 0, 0. 1,648.297 repeating times 0, 0. Whiteboard times 0, 0. And we just call that the multiplication by 0 property. So now you know your distributive, you know your identity properties, you know your multiplication by 0, you know your commutative, and you know your associative. I'm going to have a worksheet that has this all laid out, and we're going to work out some problems. Go to mathtutorials.com, and you'll find the work there, and I'll help you go through all these. Thanks, guys. See you next time.